Okay, so let's open up the source material you've brought in. It looks like a really deep look at the product owner role in SAFe, the Scaled Agile Framework.
Yeah, it really is. And it's such a central role, how value actually gets delivered in that scaled setting.
Mm.
These sources, they really dig into how complex and vital it is.
Right. So our mission here for you listening is basically to unpack this. We want to pull out the key stuff, the really important insights,
Hmm.
focusing on like how this product owner role bridges the gap, right, between the big business strategy and the actual tech work day to day.
All about maximizing value. That's the goal.
Exactly. Think of this as getting the concentrated version. You get the core knowledge, a shortcut to being really informed on this without having to read the whole thing yourself.
Yeah, what are the main points? Like, what's the basic definition? How are they strategic? What do they actually do? And who do they need to work with?
Sounds like a good plan. Let's just jump right in then. The source material, it gives this really clear main responsibility for the product owner. What's that core definition?
The absolute fundamental thing, the sources say, is that the product owner is responsible for maximizing the value the team delivers. That's it. That's their North Star.
Maximize value. Okay.
Mm.
But how? How do they actually make that happen? Make sure the team's doing the stuff that leads to that value.
It really boils down to alignment. They do it by making sure the team's backlog, the team's to-do list, really matches up with what customers need and what stakeholders need.
Ah, okay, so it's a balancing act.
Exactly. Balancing those sometimes competing forces. So the team isn't just building stuff, they're building the right stuff.
And that position, being the one doing that balancing, it makes them unique, doesn't it? The source says they act as the voice of the customer for the Agile team. What does that actually mean in practice? Is it just a nice phrase or?
No, it's very practical. I mean, they have this strategic position. They're the link, the direct connection between the people using the thing and the team building it.
Got it.
So the decisions they make about what the team works on, they're aimed right at optimizing the business results and making sure customers are satisfied.
Yeah.
It's not just about prioritizing tasks, it's prioritizing the impact of those tasks.
That idea, the strategic voice, feels really key. The source material, it kind of breaks that down, right?
Yeah.
What does being that voice involve?
Yeah, it highlights a few things. They're the customer advocate, constantly bringing the end user perspective, what they need, what the business needs, back to the team.
Okay.
They also make sure there's strategic alignment,
Hmm.
making sure the team's work actually connects up to the bigger company goals.
So it's not just what does the customer want right now, but how does that fit the bigger picture?
Precisely. And because you've got all these different views, customers, business folks, maybe technical architects, compliance, they act as a relationship manager.
Mm-hmm.
They have to sort of navigate those different stakeholder needs, maybe smooth things over to guide how the solution grows. And it's all geared towards being a value maximizer, always looking for ways to get quick insights and deliver results fast.
It sounds like a lot of connecting, translating. The source mentions some related ideas here, like connecting with customers, connecting the team, getting feedback, managing NFRs, non-functional requirements.
Absolutely. Those aren't like separate side tasks. That's how they do the strategic voice job.
Mm.
For example, that point about getting and applying feedback, the source really emphasizes that. It goes into quite a bit of detail.
Oh, okay. Let's stick with that for a second then, the feedback part. While we're on the strategic voice idea, how does the source describe that feedback cycle for the PO?
Yeah, it paints it as this continuous loop, really. It starts with testing benefit assumptions. So the PO have an idea, hey, maybe this feature will deliver X value. They need to figure out ways to actually test that idea. Is it true? Then they obtain customer feedback, talking to customers, doing demos, looking at usage data analytics.
And they don't just keep that info to themselves, presumably.
Definitely not. It's vital. They share feedback with the Agile Release Train, right? The bigger group of teams. They need to get those insights out there across the teams to other roles.
Mm-hmm.
And then, this is the crucial bit, they use that feedback to evolve solution design. They take what they learned from testing ideas from real users and use it to tweak the vision, the roadmap, the strategy, and obviously the team's backlog. It keeps the whole thing grounded.
Yeah, that makes total sense. The strategic voice isn't just talking at the team, it's listening and changing course based on what comes back. Okay, so we've got the strategic view. Let's shift gears a bit to the nitty-gritty, the key responsibilities. What does the source say the PO does day to day?
Well, it starts pretty logically with connecting with customers. The source really pushes this idea of developing whole product solutions. using customer-centric thinking, design thinking.
So going beyond just ticking off feature requests.
Exactly. Really getting into the customer's world, understanding their problems deeply.
But it's not only the customer they need to think about, is it? We mentioned stakeholders before.
Spot on. That's another key responsibility. Understanding stakeholders. They have to figure out who all the stakeholders are. It could be internal teams, partners, legal, whoever has a stake, and then carefully balance what they need while still keeping that sharp focus on the customer. It's like juggling.
Right, that balancing act again,
Oh.
which I guess leads straight into figuring out what problems to solve, what to actually build.
Precisely. That's problem identification. The source talks about finding which customer problems are, like, the most important or urgent to tackle. It mentions divergent thinking here, exploring lots of possibilities first.
Before narrowing it down.
Yeah, before converging on the ones that'll make the biggest difference.
Okay, so they've understood the needs, identified the problems, then they play a big part in the vision and roadmap for the product. How does that work?
Well, they feed into it in a few ways. They need good market understanding. That means looking at market research, figuring out the business reasons behind feature ideas. They also ensure user representation, like we said, by talking to users, observing them, getting that direct feel.
And all that understanding, does that feed directly into how things get prioritized?
Oh, absolutely. It's crucial for backlog prioritization. They guide how features get sequenced to get the best economic outcome. And the source specifically calls out ranking things based on cost of delay.
Cost of delay. Can you unpack that quickly?
Yeah, it's a powerful idea. It's not just about how much something costs to build or how long it takes. It's about how much value you lose for every week or month you don't have that feature. It forces you to think about urgency and value together. Really helps with tough trade-offs.
Got it. Makes sense.
And they bring all this, the market view, user view, prioritization, to PI planning. They need to educate the whole ARR, all the teams, about the strategy.
Right. PI planning, that big event where all the teams in the IRT get together to plan the next chunk of work, usually a few months' worth.
Exactly that. The PO's input there is absolutely critical for getting everyone aligned. Okay, so that's the vision and roadmap contribution. Then there's the direct managing the team backlog. This is their specific team's work list.
Right, the day-to-day queue. What's involved there?
They guide story creation. So, working with the team to break down bigger features into smaller chunks, user stories, making sure those stories still line up with the strategy. They're the main person who prioritizes backlog items for the team. And again, the source mentions using cost to delay for that too, at the story level.
Okay. And when the team finishes a story?
The PO accepts completed stories. They check, did this meet the criteria we set? Does it meet our quality standards? It's that gatekeeping function. And, importantly, it's not just features. They help make sure there's room for supporting architectural runway.
Architectural runway. That's like the technical foundation stuff.
Yeah, exactly. The plumbing, the wiring, the stuff that needs doing so you can build cool features later without everything falling apart. The PO helps make sure that gets prioritized too.
It definitely sounds like they're working super closely with their specific Agile team. The source lists ways they support the team directly, right?
Oh yeah, they're embedded. They help the team balance stakeholder perspectives. They act as that buffer or translator for outside needs, helping the team keep its focus. They elaborate stories. This is huge. They sit with the team, explain the why behind a story, answer questions, clarify things so the team knows what to build and why.
And quality is part of their job too, not just the teams.
Absolutely. They foster built-in quality. They champion quality standards, make sure acceptance criteria are clear so quality isn't an afterthought. And fundamentally, they participate in team events. They're not just assigning work. They're in the planning meetings, the demos, the retrospectives, bringing that customer and business view into everything the team does.
Wow, okay. That's a lot for one role. It's clear they can't do it alone. The source talks about key partnerships. Who are the main players they need to work with?
Two absolutely critical ones the source highlights: product management and their own Agile team.
Okay, let's take product management first. How does that relationship work?
The source frames it as working together to build the right thing in the right way. Product management usually operates a bit higher up, you know. They guide the overall vision and roadmap for the whole product or solution, manage the big RT backlog, define the value streams.
So, more strategic, broader scope.
Generally, yes. The product owner then takes that broader vision, contributes their team-level insights back up, manages their team's backlog in alignment with it, and really supports their team in delivering pieces of that value. Product management might be doing more continuous exploration of the market, while the PO is the one having those direct, frequent customer conversations for the team.
Okay, so product management sets the direction, PO translates and executes with their team, feeding insights back up. What about the partnership with the Agile team itself?
Well, that's where the execution happens,
Yeah.
right? That build the right thing in the right way comes down to the technical reality. The team takes the vision, takes the PO's prioritized backlog, and they actually build, test, and deliver the working software or solution increments.
And the PO's role is to enable that.
Exactly. Making sure the backlog is clear, prioritized, understood, answering questions, providing feedback, accepting the work, being that constant link back to the why.
Interesting. And the source mentions something they all do, product management, POs, the teams.
Yeah, it calls out that they all seek and apply feedback frequently. That seems to be the common thread, that constant learning cycle connecting everyone.
So if you pull it all together, what's the big picture business value of having this PO role working well based on these sources?
I think the main takeaway is that continuous alignment of strategy with execution. The PO is the pivot point, ensuring that the daily work of the teams stays connected to the business goals and what customers actually need. It allows the whole organization to adapt faster.
Okay, so bringing this all back to you, the listener, what we've really seen digging into this source material is, well, just how complicated and how incredibly important this product owner role is in something like SAFe. It's definitely not a simple job.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It really sits right at that crossroads of strategy, customer empathy, negotiating with stakeholders, and the practical side of building stuff. It's about turning vision into action and making sure that action delivers real value.
Yeah, and understanding this role, it matters whether you are one of those stakeholders or maybe you're on an agile team or you manage the process or maybe you're just curious how big companies try to deliver value effectively.
Hmm.
It's clear the PO isn't just, writing user stories. They're this essential bridge, the customer's champion inside the team, a huge driver of value. It's about influence, understanding, making tough calls, and ensuring effort goes where it counts.
Yeah, this deep dive definitely highlights the weight the sources put on that position.
For sure. So we've walked through the core definition, how they act as that strategic customer voice and that crucial feedback loop supporting it, their specific responsibilities from customers to backlog to team support and those key partnerships. It all comes back to that alignment and value.
It really demands a unique mix of skills, doesn't it? And that relentless focus on the outcome.
Absolutely. Which kind of leaves us with a final thought, something for you to mull over straight from this material. Given how absolutely central the product owner is to getting and using feedback that shapes the solution, the strategy, the vision, the roadmap, how critical really is the quality and the speed of that feedback loop? What actually happens to maximizing value when that connection, that feedback flow is maybe slow or noisy or just plain broken? Something to think about in your own world.